We are live. Hey, everybody, Chuck Holton here. And I just realized I totally sound like I'm in a toilet right now, but I'm not. This is not a toilet. This is a phone booth at the Polaris Lounge in New York, Newark airfield or airport. My brain's not working very well today. I need some more coffee. How you doing? We had an amazing weekend in Olean, New York, and I'll just point that out real quick. You can go to chuckholton.com and you can get links there to all of the speeches that I gave at that church. I spoke to their men's group on Saturday night, and then I spoke for the full church on Sunday. And you can go and watch those, like I said, at chuckholton.com. That was Believers Chapel in Olean, New York. Now, today I'm going to talk. I'm just going to do a quick roundup of all the various places uh, where there are things happening around the world. So very quickly, we're going to start with Israel, and then we're going to go to the Houthis and Iran, and then we'll go talk about what's happening in Ukraine, and then we'll go talk about some other things in different places around the world. Okay, so yeah, I know the audio is going to sound a little weird because it is totally sounding like I'm in a toilet here. There's Connie, my lovely wife, bringing me some coffee. So let's start with Israel. Let you know what's going on there. The Jerusalem Post is reporting that Hamas may be concerned because the IDF is advancing so quickly in Gaza that they do not have the ability to confront that advance. Now, they began a multi-pronged ground offensive uh, on the 19th of March, and they have been surging forces into Gaza, doing what they had. This is their modus operandi in Gaza. They go in, they find a neighborhood where there's a hotbed of Hamas activity, and they surround the neighborhood, close it off, and then tell everybody to get out of the neighborhood. And they have to pass through checkpoints to get out. So they're checking to make sure nobody's taking weapons with them or anything like that. Once everybody is out, they move in, they clear and destroy anything that needs to be destroyed, take out any weapons, search for tunnels, things like that. But uh, what we're seeing is number one, not at near as much um, fighting as they had kind of expected. And part of that is probably because Hamas just they can't get their act together and they don't have a ton of weapons left. Uh, Israel yesterday took out another Hamas leader who was receiving treatment, they say, in one of the hospitals there. Uh, Israel, the IDF says he wasn't receiving treatment there. He was basing his operations out of there and was commanding Hamas forces from the hospital. But anyway, he got smoked, and that's one of two that so far since the 19th that they've been able to take out fairly major key figures. This one was uh, his name is Al Akbar, uh, and oh no, I'm sorry. What's his name? I, I lost it. Anyhow, uh, this framework that they're using now to clear, take over, clear, and then move on is having some effect, and the Israelis are pulling forces out of the northern part of the Israel along the Lebanese border and sending those forces back south. They appear to be preparing for major pressure on Hamas. And so, what we're seeing now from Hamas is they are scrambling for the negotiating table uh, looking to negotiate. The Egyptians put forward a plan that I think I read was actually endorsed by Steve Witkoff, sort of. So that I have to tell you, I have less and less confidence in Steve Witkoff, less and less respect for that guy because he has made some deals lately or made some statements lately that have shown that he really doesn't have a great grasp on what's going on in Israel or in Ukraine. Nevertheless, the Egyptian plan, ceasefire plan they're coming up with, would require Hamas to give proof of life, pictures and videos of their remaining living hostages to prove that they have them alive, and then would start a phased process of releasing one or two at a time in exchange for Israel pulling troops out of Gaza on a permanent basis. If Israel were to agree to that, they're crazy. That is a one sided ceasefire that cannot continue to allow Hamas to torture the Israeli people by the ridiculous spectacle that they put out for their people. And it says a lot about the morality of the Jewish people that they would rather let themselves be psychologically tortured, knowingly psychologically tortured in order to save the lives of any of their remaining hostages. It's not a way to win a war. It's counterproductive, unfortunately, because it just trains Hamas to take more hostages. It trains them on the value, that Israel values their hostages so highly that they'll do anything, including letting themselves be flagellated by Hamas, so to speak. And so long term, it's a really bad strategy, but it does give you a picture of just how important life is for the Israelis, and you gotta have to respect that, right? So some of the Lebanese media are writing about that saying Israel has a new assassination policy, uh, which is just targeting anybody. I don't know, that doesn't sound new to me. That sounds actually pretty common, pretty old. The kind of things that they've been doing uh, for a long time. But what they're saying is that over the past 2 days, the situation on the ground in Gaza Strip has shifted from the framework of like air and military air operations, military pressure on Hamas, to the return to like full scale warfare, coinciding with an assassination campaign targeting a number of the movement's leaders. Well, here's the thing. And I said this when they started that ceasefire and they were having these big celebrations in Gaza, and all everybody came out in their uniforms and they were parading the hostages through the streets, which is a war crime, by the way. I said Israel is watching very, very closely. And I, for example, was watching on some of the videos of the ceremonies that Hamas was holding as they were handing over the hostages. Everybody was masked. All the guys were wearing their, balaclavas so their faces couldn't be seen. But every once in a while, you would see a guy, he was hot or he had to spit or something. He would pull his mask down and then put it back up. That's all it takes. He's on video. They got his face. Boom. Israel, believe me, they are combing through every frame of every shred of video they can get from those events, and they're making a list of targets. And you recall, I was saying that at the beginning. They're making a list of targets, and they're going to start taking those out as soon as the ceasefire is over. Well, that's exactly what they're doing. The Lebanese media is calling this an assassination campaign. It's not an assassination campaign. It's just Israel doing what Israel does. And it's funny that Hezbollah or the Arabs are so surprised by this. Like they don't understand Israel's MO yet. Apparently not. So they're making strides in Gaza. As far as I know, they have not lost any IDF soldiers since the 19th, since they went back in. And that's a good thing. And it's also a measure of the lack of intensity of the combat that they're facing. Those Hamas guys that were all parading around in their uniforms all of a sudden decided that discretion was a better part of valor and put their uniforms away, and they ran and hid behind their mama's skirts in the safe zones that Israel is putting out. Now, there have been 4 missiles or rockets, not missiles, fired out of Gaza since the 19th. I kind of expected that as well, because if you gave them 9 weeks to consolidate, try to find any remaining missiles, rockets, whatever they could find, and they had all that time to move around freely and set up these things and get these launchers ready. Kind of expected that you'd see a few more launches out of. I'm honestly surprised we haven't seen more, to tell you the truth. So, as the IDF advances through Gaza, they are squeezing Hamas into smaller and smaller areas. The crazy thing is, Israel knows that virtually every military age male in Gaza is part of Hamas, whether he wants to be or not. He's, he's definitely suspect. And what we should do is get on Doron Kedar or some of the other, soldiers that we've gotten to know over there, and talk to them about what do you do when you know, because there's no question these guys, they surround a neighborhood, they tell everybody to get out, they set up checkpoints, these guys go to leave the neighborhood, they got all these military age males in civilian clothes coming out saying, no, 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 I'm just a civilian, I'm just a civilian. They know, they've got to know those guys are not civilians. What can you do other than check them for weapons? Is there anything you can do? That's a kind of intractable problem uh, for Israel. So, folks, we got 1,200 people online. Do me a favor, go hit that like button right over there at the top or at the bottom of the video. Hit the subscribe button as well while you're at it. You can open up a new screen and do that while you're listening to me, or you can just do it on the same screen. But either way, it does make a big difference, and I always forget unless I get reminded. So here's your reminder. If you want to support the channel, doesn't cost anything. Just go punch that like button, and it will tell YouTube more people need to be watching this. We have received a real honor from YouTube, actually, and at the same time, an insult. So I want to just very quickly explain to you what I mean by that. The honor is that we received we have our own YouTube representative now that we can reach out to and talk to when we have a problem. We are having regular meetings with him. My team is meeting with the YouTube guy, and he's helping them understand how to grow our channel and how to make it work. And this is one of the things he says is that the more likes that you're getting while you're live, the more comments you're getting while you're live, and the longer the view duration while you're live, the better it is for the algorithm. Now, the insult we got from them is that we asked him about this play button issue, because when you hit 100,000 subs, you're supposed to get a play button. Not that I really care. I mean, that play button wouldn't get you a cup of coffee anywhere. But I just wondered why it hadn't shown up. I mean, other people get their play buttons. Why didn't I get a play button? And we asked him about it. He looked into it and came back and said, "Well, it's because you have a lot of you have complaints. Your channel has been reported for misinformation and bigotry and racism and all this stuff." And I was like, "Ah, got it. I understand." There are obviously going to be a certain percentage of people who, for whatever reason, are uh, not going to agree with my commentary on geopolitical issues. And that's a problem that I've faced for many years, actually. At one point, when I used to own a website called Homesteading Today, there was a group of people that just hated me for being the owner of the website, and they would follow me around and they would comment on all my books, negative comments on negative reviews on all my books. They would put negative reviews, send negative emails to my sponsors. They just all kinds of crazy stuff, trying to harm me however they could. And I guess that's just part of being a public figure. But it is what it is. I'm not worried about it. Uh, and since anybody can report uh, your channel for misinformation, whether or not it's true, then I think what that tells you is that that play button really is not all that valuable to begin with. Uh, Kim asks, where are your books and documentaries listed on locals? We need to get a separate uh, playlist for all of the posts that deal with my books and documentaries. There is not a good way to do that, Kim. But that's a good idea. Probably the best way to find my books is to go to the link tree, which maybe Mrs. Tomlin can put up. That's linktr.ee/Holton. And there are links there to some of my documentaries and my books and other things, things like that. So that's one way to. Somebody's asking the question: do you think that some of those fighters were women dressed to look like their troops? When I zoomed in on some of the pictures, they look like women. They probably had some women that were in uniform. I don't know. I don't know that it really matters that much. Uh, they obviously are all cowards because they're not wearing their uniforms now and they're hiding among women and children and in hospitals, which makes those areas legitimate military targets. And Israel could legitimately, legally bomb those targets, regardless of the fact that there are civilians present, because the the combatants are hiding among the civilian populace. That, as always, puts the onus of blame squarely at the feet of Hamas and not on the IDF. All right. So, just real quick, I read 70 Palestinians volunteered to relocate to Europe. Yeah. Okay. So Denise says, which countries were they relocating to? I didn't report on that when it first came out. Uh, these are people who had dual citizenship in various countries around Europe. So they had the immediate ability to go to Europe legally. And, if you've got a passport for Germany and you're Palestinian, there are a lot of people like that. Then you could go to Germany and you could live there if you want. But the problem up until recently has been just getting out of Gaza. There are American citizens who are Palestinian that have American citizenship who are stuck in Gaza and haven't been able to get out. So uh, that they're going to various countries. I read Spain and like Norway or places like that. But suffice it to say, these are dual citizens. The real question is, what are they going to do with the other, the other 2.5 million Palestinians who don't have dual citizenship? And they are floating, like, they're moving forward with legitimate programs now to actually move them out of Gaza to Egypt Egypt has said they'll take a 500,000 Gazans. That's a big change from their previous policy. Now, it'll be a little while before that happens, but that they're actually moving forward on a plan. Okay. Louise says, "Can you speak on Trump's plan to make Canada a 51st state?" It's not. He doesn't have a plan to make Canada a 51st state. That was him being facetious. He doesn't really want to make them a 51st state. I don't know what it is about President Trump this time around because he wasn't really like this uh, in his first term, but where all of a sudden he wants to take over the world. But he's much more serious about Panama and Greenland, and I'll talk about those toward the end if I have time. I don't know that we need to talk a whole lot about him taking over Canada because that's just not going to happen. That's not a serious thing. Does the IDF hold the land once they clear out? No, they don't actually, Michelle. The IDF goes in, takes over a neighborhood, clears the neighborhood, and then leaves the neighborhood and moves on, which means that they're having to clear the same ground over and over and over again because then people move back in there. They it's like a big game of whack-a-mole. These the Palestinians are moving the weapons around. They're hiding the weapons and trying to move them around, uh, and or they bury them, hide them, and then they go dig them up. It's a real challenge for Israel. I was talking to Doron Kedar when I was in Israel a couple weeks ago. He was telling me that, yeah, like you don't understand. He spent most of the war in Gaza. He's like, you don't understand. It's not like there's tunnels all around in Gaza, and we just have to try to find them. He's like, essentially anywhere in Gaza, if you drill into the ground, there are tunnels there. Like there are so many tunnels that essentially, if you were to blow up all the tunnels in Gaza, the entirety of Gaza would sink by about 50 feet. Just collapse in on itself. It is such a honeycomb of tunnels throughout the Gaza Strip, and this goes along with what I have said for a long time that it is not like Gaza was a big civilian area with a few military spots, military use, military bases or whatever kind of spread around in there. No, it's one giant military base with a bunch of civilians living in it. The entirety of the Gaza Strip had been militarized against Israel, and legitimately they could bomb the entire. I mean, they could just flatten the entirety of Gaza under the rules of war because the whole thing is weaponized against them. I think uh, that's the realization that they're coming to now. Is look, there's no redeeming this. It's not like we're going to go in there and take out the military portion of the Palestinians and then everybody else will be okay. The entire thing, all the people, all the buildings, all the land in Gaza is militarized against Israel, is their sole driving purpose in life is to destroy Israel, and they are not going to change. And so the realization they're coming to is we just can't live next door to each other. And those people are going to have to go somewhere else. If your entire worldview is based around who you hate, you can't have nice things. And you can't live next door to us. And so we're going to just keep pushing this plan to make everybody leave Gaza. And Israel has already said that they are going to start taking and keeping ground in Gaza and resettling it. Now that's been floating around for some time. There have been a certain portion of the Israeli population who believes every 100% that that's Israeli territory and Israelis ought to be able to live there. But now they're seriously talking about, look, if we go into an area and take it over, we have to take it over. We are going to keep it. This is, one of some of the rhetoric that's been coming out of the leadership of the IDF. But whether they actually do or end up doing that, that's all got to be renegotiated, right? It's good to see you, Kimberly. Uh, Good questions, Diane Bryant. Don't you think it's very unsafe to go to Syria I have a bad feeling about that place. Well, it's not the safest place on planet Earth, but I've been there many times. And if you know how to do it, how to get in and how to get around, and you have some assets on the ground there, well, I think we'll be okay. It's going to be a short mission, only 2 weeks. We're going to go in, we're going to visit some people, we're going to check some things out, and we're going to get back out. So, um, thank you for your prayers on our upcoming trip to Syria. How will they know who's regular Palestinian and who is Hamas when they try to relocate them? They don't. They're just assuming everybody's Hamas, and they're just saying Hamas can't be here, and all of you are Hamas. You have made that abundantly clear. We saw you all at the parade, and so you're all going to have to leave. Thank you very much. Go somewhere else. Uh, Thank you for hitting the like button, folks. Keep doing that. 777 likes. That's a lucky number. So the Gazans that have dual citizenship and could have gotten out a long time ago, but didn't, makes me wonder why not. Uh, some of them may have gotten caught there because, when the war started, it was a surprise for some of the people in Gaza. Not everybody in Gaza knew there was going to be an attack on October 7th. And so those people that had dual citizenship, as soon as the war started, everything shut down. They couldn't get out unless they had a lot of money to bribe the guards there for a while to get across um, into Egypt. So yeah, that's not going to happen. Uh, why not make Ukraine a 51st state? Well, because it's on the other side of the world and it's in Europe, and they don't want to be the 51st state. They want to be Ukraine. That's what they're fighting for. I mean, they're like, we're going to save you from Russia taking you over, and then we're going to come take you over. But it's not a good idea. Why do we need a 51st state? Really? We got enough problems with 50 states. We just get more problems. I'm very happy to see you live. Great job. I want to give up stage. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you, MM. Good to see you. I look forward to talking to you here soon, MM. We got some good stuff cooking up. Uh, all right, so let me move on real quick because I have to keep an eye here. I got to go load my plane in about 15 minutes. Uh, let's move on to the Houthis. The United States is still conducting combat operations against the Houthis. And so the letter that President Trump sent to the Ayatollah asking for negotiations, the Ayatollah immediately just said, that's not going to happen. We're not going to negotiate with our enemy. You guys can go pound sand. But in that letter, President Trump gave them a 2-month deadline and said, look, you've got 2 months to come to the negotiating table, or we are coming in. Or it's going to be basically what he said is, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, and you don't want to do it the hard way. Believe me, we don't want to do it the hard way because we like the Iranian people, but we are not going to sit by and let this happen. So there is going to be either negotiations or military conflict between the United States and Iran in the next couple of months. And I read one article on SoftRep that there's this guy that he's making the case. He believes that Iran already has a 3 or 4 nuclear warheads. He calls them gun-type nuclear bombs, which don't require testing, and they can be strapped to a hypersonic missile and could hit Tel Aviv or Haifa. We don't probably have to worry about them hitting the United States, but they would definitely be able to hit Tel Aviv or Haifa. Now, they may actually be able to shoot those things down. These hypersonic missiles are not all they're cracked up to be. They're harder to hit for sure. And what that essentially means is that the kill ratio on those things, instead of being 90% plus for like the Iron Dome, might go down to 40 or 50%. But that just means that Israel would fire more Iron Dome missiles at them and increase their odds to take them out. But still, if it's a nuclear bomb, it doesn't even have to make it onto the ground. It doesn't have to strike a target. It can just be in the air over the target and can be set to go off for the barometric trigger or something like that. So if they do have nuclear weapons right now, this guy on Soft Rep said he really believes that the Trump administration is going to have to resort to using nuclear bombs on Iran. Now, I can link that article for you over at chuckholton.com, but that is a little bit out there in terms of what people are saying about what might happen. Now, he does make a good case for the fact that Iran has so many hidden centrifuges, hidden nuclear facilities underground, and it's not like they're 50 feet underground where a bunker buster bomb could get at them. They are maybe 5,000 feet underground because they're in the, they're under a mountain, and there's no bunker buster bomb in the world that could actually take them out. We have pointed out before that you could definitely collapse the entrances to those sites if you knew where they all were, and we probably do. But some earth moving equipment would be able to get those opened back up fairly quickly, in a matter of days. And so that's not going to destroy their capabilities. If they have their capabilities, the centrifuges that are make them able to enrich uranium 5,000 feet underground, then there's no bunker buster bomb in the world that's going to actually destroy them. Now, if we take out the power or the air, the ability to circulate air down there, maybe they go offline and they could get wrecked that way. But the bottom line is this is a very big problem. Obviously, we're not going to put troops on the ground in Iran, and so it has to come down to a bombing mission. The Israelis desperately would love for us to join them in bombing Iran. The Israelis apparently are willing to take the risk that Iran tries to nuke them, probably because they believe that Iran is going to try to nuke them anyway. Like that's Iran's stated goal. They keep talking about this. So yeah, that's something that's look. I think we can expect some sort of military confrontation between the United States and Iran coming in the next 2 months. It will probably take 2 months for the United States to get assets positioned in the region to actually, plan and train that operation so that we can do it successfully. So we need those 2 months, and that's probably why he gave them 2 months to come to the negotiating table. All right, let me move on real quickly to just the Chinese problem. The Chinese military is advancing very, very rapidly, and I'm going to try to do a report here shortly, maybe when I get back to Panama in a couple of weeks, about the autonomous capabilities that China is putting together in terms of sea drones. Instead of, they are building a lot of ships, but they're also building a lot of drones that are able to go to sea remotely. And the United States is doing so as well. My friend Michael Yon was able to photograph an American Navy sea drone that was on shore in Panama, and apparently these things are scattered all over off the coast out there. And these are basically small boats, very small boats, unmanned, completely autonomous with cameras and sensors all over them. And they're being cranked out and sent all over the globe in the ocean to create a sort of intelligence network that allows the United States to track and get all kinds of important data. And data is king now. But China's doing the same thing, and theirs, unfortunately, are likely weaponized, meaning that they could turn into kamikaze sea drones if they wanted to. So we're going to be talking more about that. It's obviously a big concern for the Pentagon because Pete Hegseth is actually going to be joining me in Guam this coming week. He's just getting on the plane now, as am I, to go to Guam. And I have a map here I want to show you. This is where I'm headed. I'm going to Guam. So you see in the middle of let's see, where's that? Oh, okay, I'm going to zoom that in a little bit. Okay, there you see Guam right in the middle of the page. And so we're flying over there. Hawaii is over this way. This is South Korea, China, right there. So there are a bunch of airstrips in the northern Marianas Islands there that are being refurbished right now by the U.S. military. And I'm going to go visit some of those this coming week. And so we'll be basing out of Guam and then doing the Iwo Jima thing and also going to Saipan and Tinian over the next week to talk more about this. But apparently, Pete Hegseth is going over there to meet with uh, military leaders in Guam, in the Philippines, in Japan, to talk about the threat from China. So that's an upcoming threat that we're going to be covering a lot more, I think, in the coming years, the next couple of years, because we are coming to a head with China as well. And I think perhaps the United States is planning military operations against Iran to make a show of force for China, to try to get China to back off. And Iran, it's like, okay, there's a convenient whipping boy at this point. They definitely deserve it. We've needed to do this for a very long time. But now I think we're going to see it happen. Uh, that's going to be coming very soon, I believe. So thank you, Mr. Salmon, for putting up that link. Folks, please go to chuckholton.com. If you want to support the work that I do around the world, you can go there and become a supporter on Locals. It's, buy me a coffee. That's basically what you're doing. And keep me on the road. Keep me doing what I do. And so we are getting on the plane in about 7 minutes to go to Tokyo, and then from there change planes and go to Guam. And so we'll be traveling for the next almost 24 hours. And so don't expect to hear from me live for the next 24 hours because I'll be sleeping on the plane. And I sleep really well on airplanes. So we're going to go diving while we're over there. We're going to go to get to talk to some survivors of the Battle of Iwo Jima. We've got some really good stuff coming from Tinian. I got to meet the CEO of K-Bar Knives, which are made in Olean, New York. And got to tell him about this story that we're doing on the island of Tinian coming up with that we found a K-bar knife that was found on the island, and we're able to track down and find the original family who owned the knife, the guy who actually used it in combat on Tinian, and we're going to return that knife to its own original owners and make a little documentary out of that. And I told the CEO of K-Bar about it. He was so excited, and he gave me a limited edition handmade K-Bar knife. Most K-Bar knives are mass produced, but this one is one of the few numbered edition that's handmade. Very sweet knife, which of course I couldn't take on the plane with me, so I had to get him to just mail it to my son's house in Savannah, which means I'll probably never see it again because my son's going to grab it and take off. So, all right, we're gonna get going. Thank you very much for watching. We're going to keep doing updates. We'll be posting stuff over at chuckholton.com, so don't forget to go over there and make sure you subscribe to the Hot Zone. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.